Happy morning, students. We are going with a very important lesson, control and coordination. In previous classes, we had a discussion about coordination in plants, isn't it? Right, how the coordination takes place in the plants with the help of the hormones, that is phytohormone. In today's class, we are going to see about the coordination in animal, how it takes place with the help of nervous system. Before moving to the topic, first we will see some terms about it. Number 1, stimuli. What is stimuli? As we all know that, what is stimuli? The changes in the environment to which the living organism respond is called as stimuli, right? Whatever the changes which may happen in the environment, as per that the living organism respond, right? And for example, either the stimuli may be a heat or cold or sound, smell, taste, etc. Right? Now we will see what is coordination. Right? The working together of the various organ and organism to produce a proper response to the stimulus, which is called as coordination. Okay, so to respond to a stimuli, more organs in the organism has to work together. That is called as coordination. Right? The coordination, as we all know that in plants and in animals. In case of a plant, how it may occur? Yeah, good. It is because of the plant hormone, that is phytohormone. And in case of the animals, it is done by the nervous system and also by the endocrine system. Right? So first, the nervous system, it consists of, what are they? Brain, spinal cord and nerves. Right? So these three together comes under the nervous system. Right? Brain, spinal cord and nerves. And to that, first we will see a few key terms. Number 1 is receptors. What do you know about receptors? Yeah, they are the sense organ which receive the stimuli and pass the message to the brain through the nerve called as sensory nerve. Actually, see, imagine that if I'm touching a very hot pan, right? If I'm touching in a hot pan, immediately I'll respond to it. In this case, while touching, my skin acts as a sense organ. Okay, so from the sense organ, the sensory nerves that will carry the message and it will pass the message to either to the brain or spinal cord. So that is called as the receptors. Right. So now we will see what are the types of receptors here. Right. They are, number 1, the receptor which is involved with the eye to detect the light, then it is called as photoreceptor. Number 1 is photoreceptor, means eyes. Number 2, phonoreceptor. From the name it is very clear. The phonoreceptor which is present in the ears to detect the sound. And number 3 is olfactory receptor, that is present in the nose to detect the smell. Okay. And number 4 is gustatory receptor, which is present in the tongue to detect the taste. And the last one is a tango receptor, which is present in the skin to detect the touch. So these are all the different examples, different types of receptor. That is photoreceptor, that is present in the eye, phono, present in ears, olfactory, present in the nose, gustatory receptor, present in the tongues, and tango receptor, present in the skin. So I hope that, are you clear with what is number 1? A receptor. They are the sense organs, okay, which receive the stimuli. And number 2, we should know what is effector. Effector are the muscles and glands which responds to the information from the brain and the spinal cord through the motor nerve. Okay, so once if the message has been passed from the sensory nerve to the brain or spinal cord, as per that the instruction will be given by the brain or the spinal cord, that will be taken through the motor nerve, right? And the motor nerve take the information and it will give to the effector organs. What are the effector organs? Either it may be a muscles or glands. Okay, so that is effector. And third one, what is sensory nerves? As I already said, they are the nerves which carry the information from the receptor to the brain and the spinal cord. Okay, and what is motor nerves? It is nothing. It is a nerve which carry the information from the brain and the spinal cord to the effectors. Either it may be a muscles or gland. So from the brain and spinal cord to the muscles and the glands, it has been passed to the motor nerves. Now, see the image which is given here. This is a pathway how the coordination takes place. Just to see this stimulus, that is either it may be a sound, a smell, taste, whatever it may be. Stimulus has been aroused. From there, the nerve impulse, right? So carry the nerve impulse and reaches the receptor, right? From the receptor, it moves towards a coordinator, that is a brain. From the coordinator, the motor nerves, reaches the effector, either it may be a muscles and glands, and from the effector the response may takes place, that is either by the movement of the body, right? So this is the step which carries. See the image which is given here, coordination by brain, a very beautiful image which is given here. Can you see that? What is the stimulus given here? Telephone, ring, telephone ring. The stimulus has been reached by the receptor. What is the receptor here? If it is present in the ear means what is the name of the receptor? Phonoreceptor. Good, phonoreceptor. From there, the message has been carried through the sensory nerve and reaches the brain. Right, from the brain, the coordinator, it will send the message through the motor nerve to the effector. So see here the image, the effector. What is the effector here? You can find the arms, right? The hands which receive the receiver, phone receiver. So the hands, that is the effector, and from there what is the response? They are responding by talking, right? So this is the coordination of the brain, how it takes place. We will enter into the very important topic about human nervous system. Right, so till now I hope that are you clear with the basic term what is stimuli and how the coordination takes place in the animal, either by nervous system and also by the endocrine system. And the nervous system, like we come across the important terms like what is receptor, what is effector, what is sensory nerves, and what is motor nerves. Now we will see about the human nervous system. The parts of the nervous system. See, that is, the human nervous system consists of two. One is the central nervous system, another one is the peripheral nervous system. So, what comes under the central nervous system? CNS, central nervous system, consists of brain and spinal cord. Brain and spinal cord. And the second one is the peripheral nervous system. Under the peripheral nervous system, again, it is of two. One is a cranial nerve, right? So the nerves which has been arised from the brain, which is called as a cranial nerve. So from here the nerves arises from the brain and it will reaches the eyes, ears, nose, which is present in the head side, right? That is a cranial nerve. And the number two is the spinal nerve. Spinal nerve means which has been arised from the spinal cord, right? So under the peripheral nervous system, it is of two. One is a cranial nerve, another one is a spinal nerve. Now, nervous cells. Now we are going to see about the nerve cell, which is also called as neuron. What is neuron? Neuron is the structural and functional unit of the nervous system, and it has the three major parts. Just to see the image which is given here, there are three major parts. What are they? Number one, cyton. That is the head part of the neuron, right? So cyton, and followed by you can find a fiber which is called as an axon, right? That is a tail-like structure. You can find that is the axon, and it ends with the axon terminals, right? So can you see, one is a cyton followed by axon, then axon terminal, right? Firstly we will see what about the cyton. The cyton, which contains a numerous nucleus, and also it possesses a cytoplasm, right? So it possesses a cytoplasm, nucleus is present. Beyond that, it also contains Golgi apparatus, neurotubules, and a very important term here is called as a Nissl granule. What is called as a Nissl granules? It is nothing, a special type of a ribosome which contains the granules, which is called as a Nissl granules. So these are all the substances which is present in the cyton. What are they? It contains a nucleus, cytoplasm. Beyond that, it also possesses mitochondria, Golgi apparatus, neurofibrils, neurotubules, and also the Nissl granules. This is about the cyton. Right. So the functions of this cyton is, usually it will accept the nerve impulse from the dendrite and transfer them to the axon. So that is a major function. Now, in the cyton itself, you can find there are so many branches. What it is called as? That is called as a dendrites. Okay, so a cyton produces 5 to 7 short, slender, and branch-like structure, which is called as dendrites. What is the function of that dendrite? Means these cytoplasmic processes receive the impulse and transmit them to the cell body. So that is a major function. The next is the axon, right? So as you all know that axon, it is a long fiber. Okay, a long fiber. And number 2, the cell membrane of the axon is called as axolemma. And followed by the cytoplasm of the axon is called as axoplasm. Right, beyond that, you should know the axon has an insulating and protective sheath, what it is called as myelin sheath. Okay, and this myelin sheath itself, it is made up of many more individual cells, which is called as a Schwann cells with abundant fatty material. Okay, so again I'll repeat: axon, which is a long fiber. Number 2, the cell membrane of the axon is called as a axolemma, and the cytoplasm of the axon is called as axoplasm. And the axon is having a protective sheath, which is called as a myelin sheath, and it is made up of an individual cell, that is a Schwann cells. Okay, and now see what is the function of that. Means axon transmit the impulse just away from the cell body and to the another neuron or to the target cell. That is a function of the axon. Now, just to see the image, the structure of the neuron, can you see the image very clearly? That is cyton. The cyton, you can find the nucleus in the center, followed by it possesses branches, what it is called as dendrites, and the next long fiber, which is called as an axon, which possesses a myelin sheath, and the inside the myelin sheath you can find the cell, what it is called as Schwann cells, and followed by in the mid of each one, which is called as a node of Ranvier, and at the end it ends with the axon terminal. Okay, now we will enter into the very important topic, that is transmission of messages through the neuron. How the message get transmitted through the neuron? Yeah, before moving to that topic, first we will see what are the key terms which comes under that. Number 1, what is a nerve impulse? Nerve impulse, it is nothing. It is the message. Okay, the nerve impulse, mostly it will carry in an electrical signal along with the dendrites to produce this nerve impulse from one nerve to the another neuron. So it will pass the message, that is a nerve impulse. Okay, it will communicate with the nerve cells with the help of a nerve impulse. And number 2 is the synaptic knob. What is synaptic knob? It is the relay point at the tip of the transmitting neuron in the brain. So this is the relay point where the signals are sent to the another neuron, or it may be sent to the muscles or glands or organs. So that is a synaptic knob. And what is called as a synaptic cleft? It is very clear. It is nothing, the space between the neuron at the nerve synapse across which the nerve impulse is transmitted by a neurotransmitter. Children, listen. Actually, through the neuron, the message will be passed with the help of an electrical impulse. That is, once if it enters into the neuron through the cyton, axon, it will be carried. The message will be carried in the form of an electrical signal. That is a nerve impulse. But from the one neuron to the another neuron, there will be a space, right? The synapse. In that, the message will be carried out with the help of a neurotransmitter, right? So from one neuron to the another neuron, how it will be carried? With the help of a neurotransmitter, the chemical substance. The signal will be carried with a chemical substance, what it is called as a neurotransmitter. And now, what is called as a neuromuscular junction? It is nothing. It is a chemical synapse between a motor neuron and the muscle. Actually, the motor neuron which touches the muscle fiber, then it is called as a neuromuscular junction. Okay, so as I already said, the neurotransmitter, usually the neurotransmitter from the one neuron to the another neuron, the chemical substance which will be released, which is called as an acetylcholine. Okay, acetylcholine. And now, just to see this image, the arrangement of the neuron. Here, the neurons are arranged end to end. As I already said, it will be like in a chain, forming like a chain. This helps in the continued transmission of the impulse, right? But each neuron receives an impulse through its dendrites and transmit to the next neuron. So imagine that the neurons will be present in a sequence, that is an order like a chain, but from one neuron to the another neuron, how the message will be passed? Through the dendrite, right? From the one end of the neuron, that will pass the message to the another neuron through the dendrite, okay? And the neurons are not connected. Usually there will be a space. Just now I said it possesses a space, that is a synapse or a small gap which occurs between the axons of the one neuron and the dendrons of the next neuron. There will be some space will be there, which is called as a synapse, okay? And a synapse in the muscle fiber is also known as neuromuscular junction, okay? Right, now we will see what is the route of nerve impulse, how the nerve impulse carry. Just to see the pathway, yeah, it carry first the stimulus which has been arised, right? What is stimulus? Yeah, the changes in the environment, right? So stimulus, from that it reaches the nerve, that is through the dendrite. Once it reaches the dendrite, it moves towards a cyton. From the cyton, it moves towards the axon. From the axon, it reaches the axon terminal, and at last it passes the stimulus through the synapse, that is through the to the next neuron. So this is the pathway of the nerve impulse, right? Good. Now we are going to see about the types of neuron. Right? So as you all know very well, there are three major types of the neuron. They are sensory neuron, motor neuron, and relaying neuron. First, we will see what is a sensory neuron. It is nothing. The nerve cells within the nervous system responsible for converting the external stimuli from the organism of the environment into the internal electrical impulse. Actually, say for example, once if I am touching in a hot pan, my skin acts as a sensory receptor, right? So from my skin, the sensory neuron which carry the information, which carry the stimulus, and the stimulus will be changed here as a electrical impulse, and it will be passed, okay? So that is a sensory neuron. And next is a motor neuron. Here they are the nerve cells forming a part of the pathway along which the impulse passes from the brain or the spinal cord. So just now as I said, the sensory neuron, from the receptor it will carry, right? Once if the sensory neuron gives the message to the brain, from the brain it will give the instruction, and that will be passed, right? Passed through the motor neuron towards the muscles, okay, or a gland. Right, that is called as a motor neuron. And the third one is a relaying neuron, that is it carry the messages from one part of the central nervous system to the another. So the only purpose is to carry the message from one part of the central nervous system to the another one, right? So children, are you clear with the neuron structure and function, and how the nerve impulse passes from one neuron to the another, and what is the pathway, right? Now we are going to see about the reflex action. Right, we are going to see the topic reflex action. You all know that what is a reflex action? It is a quick, sudden and immediate response of the body. What is that? Quick, sudden and immediate response of the body to a stimulus. That is example, knee jerk, or just now as I said, withdrawal of the hand on touching a hot object. So these are all the reflex action. Immediately, suddenly it may occur, okay? And the pathway which states a reflex action is called as a reflex arc, right? So the pathway which states the reflex action, the reflex action, how it may takes place, the pathway which will be given, that is called as reflex arc, okay? Just to see this flowchart here, right? So number one, stimulus. See, imagine that heat is a stimulus. Given example, stimulus is heat. So once if the stimulus arises, it reaches the receptor organ. So heat means by touching a hot pan, as I said, then here the skin acts as a receptor organ. And from the skin, right, the sensory nerves, it will take the message to the spinal cord, right? So if it is a reflex action, this message will not be sent to the brain. Instead, it will be sent only to the spinal cord, and from the spinal cord immediately the instruction which has been given to the motor nerves, and through the motor nerve it reaches the effector organ, that is here is muscles. Okay, and as per that the effector organ, the instruction carried, the response may takes place. What is the response here? Withdrawal of the hand, that is the response. So this is the pathway which carries, that is stimulus. From there the receptor organ towards the spinal cord reaches the effector organ, and the response takes place. So this pathway is called as a reflex arc. The pathway through which the nerve impulse pass during the reflex action is called as reflex arc. So if you see the response, usually it is of three major types, that is voluntary, involuntary and reflex action. You should know the difference among all these three. The number one is the voluntary. What is voluntary? That is, it is being controlled by the forebrain. So like writing or walking, speaking, all these things happens with the control of the forebrain. That is called as a voluntary response. And number two is involuntary. That means it has been controlled by the midbrain and hindbrain. An example is heartbeat, vomiting and also respiration. It may take place automatically, but the control has been taken by mid and hindbrain. So that is heartbeat, vomiting and respiration. And third one, what we studied is a reflex action. That is, it has been controlled by the spinal cord. See that give an example is withdrawal of the hand on touching in a hot object. What is the need of reflex action? Actually, in some situation, that is such as touching a hot object or pinching, etc., we need to act quickly, otherwise our body would be harmed. So that here the response is generated from the spinal cord instead of moving towards the brain. So that is the need of a reflex action. Okay, just to see the image which is given here, can you find? Number one is the receptor skin, receptor touching the hot pan, receptor. From there it moved towards a, can you see this number two? Receptor neuron. And third one, spinal cord. It reaches the information towards the spinal cord. And number four, from the spinal cord, the message has been passed to the effector neuron. And from there, effector neuron, it moves towards the effector organ. What is that? The muscle. So, from that, like the response may take place. What is the response? Yeah, taking the hands away from the hot pan. Right? So, children, in today's class, we studied about how the coordination takes place in the animal with the help of a nervous system, right? Under the nervous system, we studied number one about the human nervous system, that is central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. And next is about the neuron, right? What is the structure of the neuron and how the message, the nerve impulse message transmit from one neuron to another neuron, and what is called as a neurotransmitter, that is acetylcholine, and what is the route of nerve impulse. So how the message impulse may pass, what is the route of the nerve impulse, and followed by we studied what are the types of neuron, and sensory neuron, motor neuron and also the relaying neuron, and followed by the last topic what we come across is reflex action and what is reflex arc. Okay children, I hope that this video makes you to understand clearly about the nervous system. Okay children, in the next class still with more interesting fact I will come and meet you. Until then, thank you children.